Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Vampire YGO here again with another Unchained deck profile. The one that I did previously was the variant for the Unchained artifact variant of the actual deck profile, which I still believe is the best version of the build so far. I know I've had a decent amount of people ask for a more pure build and a build without extravagances, because I did use the playset of Pot of Extravagance in the other deck there, which is pretty much 3 of all the extra monsters for the Unchained are pretty much the most important part. But so this is a pretty much a pure, more control style build here. And you know, obviously the deck is not tier 1 to begin with, but it's going to be getting some new support. They leaked the one Link monster. I still think there was going to be at least another maybe effect monster like Disaster, maybe for like the pink card that's in the Abomination's prison. Like that one's actually, I don't see a monster for whatever wolf that one is there. But yeah, I mean, still a fun deck to play. The pure build still can do pretty dang well when it goes first if you get the, you know, the right board. It's pretty much ending with the Soul of Rage. You have like Imperial Order, some other trap cards, hand traps, and so forth. Just pretty much disruption after disruption. But as you can see here, starting off with 3 of the most recently released card, the Unchained Twins Sarama. This one's awesome because it doesn't have that lock effect to Fiends, even though pretty much, you know, you're going to use at least the Rakea and the Ruha within the first turn, but Sarama for the second turn, a lot of times you won't use those 2 effects. They're based on what your field is. But Sarama is awesome. It's a new addition when it comes to the consistency of the deck. You definitely get a huge boost with the combos with it, and it's a good card definitely for follow-up plays or grind games as well. 1500 attack, 1500 defense, just like the other 2 twins. This one is actually the younger version, or the other version that turns into Abomination. You have a Ruha turning into the Anguish, and then you have the Rakea turning into Rage, and the Sarama turns into Abomination. They haven't shown what Abominable Unchained Soul turns into yet either, and I don't think it's that pink one there, because he's purple and yellow. But the effect of Sarama is pretty much you target one of your Unchained cards in your graveyard, and then you can set it. You can either do the monster or a trap card or a spell card. So essentially, they all have the double effect of the obviously being destroyed. So sometimes even if you've used the spell card like Abomination's Prison or one of the other monsters, you can still set it and destroy it as long as it hasn't been destroyed that turn, or at least with that effect. And then you don't want to destroy it with its own effect, because the effect will not go off for the destruction for it. It does have to be another one. So usually you'll just either hit a Ruha or Rakea, or essentially one of the traps that you usually set there. So either of those. And then it obviously has the secondary effect just like the others. If this card is destroyed, special summon 1 Unchained monster from your deck. Really good card. Definitely wanted it 3. And it's a dark as well for Allure of Darkness as well. Just like before, you want 3 of the Rakea, or sorry, Aruha. The other brother, the one that turns into Anguish. I like the artwork a lot on this one too. I wish I had the Starlight rare. I definitely wanted to get it when it was around like 80 or 90 bucks before the stimulus checks hit. I hope everybody else is doing well out there and still staying safe and enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh! At the same time. The online meta has definitely been pretty nuts. The tournaments are pretty crazy right now. If you're watching CMOs or Callies, there's a lot of unexpected things going on there, besides obviously the whole mess of Eldritch and Emancipator, which, I mean, obviously wouldn't be running as rampant because people wouldn't have all the cards. Obviously it's online, so they can use whatever deck they want. But definitely an interesting meta. But Aruha as well. If you guys remember, obviously I didn't go over this one really quick. This one is your target one of your other Unchained cards on the field, destroy it, and then special summon him. And then it's basically your combo starter. He's a really good card. You really want to see him going first if you already have him in your hand. Versus the Abominable Unchained Soul, you definitely want to lead with this, setting one of your trap cards usually, or summoning the Rakea, or using Tour Guide of the Underworld to summon one of the Rakeas and then target that off everything basically special summon. You never want to use his normal summon unless it's pretty much your only option, but you usually won't. Pretty much never. I don't think I've ever had it come to that. And then his destruction effect as well. You have the 2 Rikeyas. Obviously, most people run 3. I've always been running 3, but I feel like this was actually one of the least important. When it comes to a grand game, you can always get them back as well. You have multiple ways of getting these out of the graveyard, but this is usually not one of the cards you are going to target. I mean, unless sometimes with Sarama, but you can get it back with the trap card as well, or Monster Reborn. But this one is your least important that you want to see in your starting hand when it comes to, at least I would say, Aruha, Sarama, or the Abominable Unchained Soul. But yeah, I'd like 2. I've been trying it, and it's been working really well. You still see it plenty. I have still 1 Unchained Soul of Disaster. Again, I know a lot of people run multiple copies of this. I just hate drawing this card first turn, and I just seem to constantly do it even with 2 copies. So still keeping it at 1. You can see it whenever you want. You can always get it out first turn if your combos don't get stopped by any negations or anything like that. And then obviously his other effect besides his destruction effect is this one. You usually want to keep him in defense. You can target one of your opponent's monsters during your turn, and then you can use it for a link summon using that material and this one. So you target, use it to make rage, or if it's a link monster, you can make a higher link as well. And then his destruction effect is you can target 1 Unchained monster in your graveyard and then special summon it when he's destroyed too by card effect or battle. And then still, I believe in 3 because you want to see this card in your opening hand no matter what. He's just an extra body on board. Usually you're going to use this one for the link summon when it comes to it, and your pretty much ending board that's average will be with Rage, and then the Abominable Unchained Soul trap card or 2 with a hand trap or 2. And then his effect is when a card on your field is destroyed, you can special summon him, and you have the option to discard a card to destroy a card on the field, and that effect can resolve pretty much during your turn or your opponent's turn, depending on when it's special summoned there. So pretty much if you have another one in your hand, you can usually keep them for just like an extra plan of disruption for when it's special summoned as well. And then you can see in the background there you have Abomination, like they're basically like breaking through some sort of chamber or wall together there, escaping. Sorry for the focus there. Still, my favorite artwork out of them. My favorite card in the deck is the Abominable Unchained Soul. And then, obviously, the 3K attack is very nice. Those are it for the Unchained package of monsters. Still run the 2 tour guides, because obviously, that's all you can do. You know what this one does. This is usually the card you want to see first. I usually special summon Rikea with it, target the Rikea with a Ruha, or, you know, obviously one of the trap cards, Sarama, depending on what's going on. The Sarama also pops the dead card, or you can use it to link with. You usually want to use the tour guide to link with to leave your other ones on board and leave like a Sarama or so. For the hand traps, we run 2 DD Crows. And then, I mean, because the graveyard, there's still a lot of graveyard heavy decks out there. Shadal's, the Eldritch. Those are two pretty big ones there that are using the graveyards now. See a lot of people still coming back with Orcus now that the new one's out. And then 3 Ash Blossom and the Joyous Spring. Pretty much a staple for most decks still in this meta. It's just crazy how that card's just been going on forever. Still the most important hand trap. To the spells, the 3 Abominations Prison. You got the 2, obviously, looking at whatever dog this one is or wolf this one is. They're trying to break it out, and they're like, get ready, let's go. And this one's awesome. This is your searcher for the deck. Search for an Unchained card from your deck, and then add it to your hand. And then that can be another spell, trap, or either of the monsters. If you have your combo ready to roll, but you don't have Abominable Unchained Soul, he's the one you usually want to add so you can get that extra summon. And then when it's destroyed as well, so you can use the effect of Sarama even after using this, set it, and then target it and destroy it with Sarama to special summon another monster. It's really good. We're gonna run, again, for more search power, 3 Lure of Darkness. Oh man, easy, especially with the 3 Sarama and the 2 DD Crow. If you're playing something that, you know, you don't really need. Also, even if need be, sometimes you can banish the Disaster. It's not that big a deal in my opinion. Obviously, you know what a Lure of Darkness does, and it's obviously not a once per turn. We got 1 Upstart Goblin, just another way of getting some more power to the hand. Usually you're like trying to kind of want to max out on traps or hand traps after your combos, so you want to get as many cards in hand as possible. 1 Moss Reborn. Man, that prismatic is fire. Wild. I don't know why I really like this one a lot. This one is awesome. I even like it a little, I would say, more than the regular secret rare. And I don't typically like prismatics as much, I'd say. But obviously, this one's just a, you know, for follow-up plays, or you can even get it on board and use it for more link material. 3 Call by the Grave, because this deck can get shut down. Again, with specific choke points, depending on what cards you're using, but you usually don't want them to stop your destruction summon of like a Ruha or something like that, versus your Allure of Darkness or your Abomination's Prism can usually be more bait, but obviously you want 3 Call by the Grave, still amazing in almost any deck that relies on going first. For the traps, 1 Imperial Order. Man, this card is gnarly. I got this card in Christmas when the Pharaoh Servant was released. I obviously, you know, most kids had no idea what cards were in what packs, and my parents had got this for my brother and I, or at least a bunch of Pharaoh Servant packs, and this is what I pulled. But yeah, kind of speaks for itself. It shuts down all spells, and you can actually destroy it with your Rikea or destroy it with your trap card. So if you want to get off the field, if there's a specific time that's kind of hurting you too much or would hurt you to the point to where it could cost you the game, you could definitely just eliminate it. But, you know, you flip this turn 1, oh man, like Shadal decks, I mean, any decks at all that pretty much just rely on starting with heavy spells, yeah, just pretty much say goodbye unless they have anything else to kind of destroy it. But if you have other disruption like Rage, hand traps, and other traps on board, it's very difficult for them to get around. You pretty much have game if they can't get around the Imperial Order and they rely on that. 2 Trap Trick. I think I was running 3 in the previous one with the artifacts before, but 2 is perfectly fine in this one. You got a decent amount of options for traps and targets for the Trap Trick. Run 2 of each of the, Unchained trap options here. The Escape of the Unchained and the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. They both have the same destruction effect. If they're destroyed, special summon a Unchained monster from your deck to the field. And then they both have a separate effect as well. This one special summons a monster from your, Unchained monster from your hand or graveyard. So if you do have a card like Disaster in hand that's a dead card, you can still get it out of the hand there. And then Escape of the Unchained, which I think is a little bit better. It's a disruption card. You target one of your Unchained monsters, and then you target 1 card on your opponent's side of the field, or your side of the field, I guess it's just 1 card on the field, and then you can destroy it. So, you know, depending on what your opponent's doing, you can do that. And then also, obviously, it's a benefit for you because you destroy one of your monsters to basically special summon another, which you can do the Abominable Unchained Soul, and then discard a card and destroy another card. So you just have a double destruction, like disruption play. Plus, you know, again, Rage on field and so forth. And this is just the more, you know, pure build, generic build again. 3 Torrential Tribute. This card is obviously the same thing. You can destroy your own stuff. Your monster's effects will activate. Your opponents most likely won't have a resolution upon their monsters being destroyed, depending on what deck they're playing. But, you know, again, it heavily benefits this deck. And again, it is also Trap Trickable. So you can use Trap Trick, get this thing out, depending on if you're in a, you know, a threatening board that's building against you there. Again, depending if they get through specific monsters. But 3 of these, destroy all monsters on the field, obviously when a monster summon. And that would be it for the main deck. Again, there's a multitude of traps people are using these days. Again, the meta is still pretty undefined. Solemn packages you can throw in there. Summon limits are really good. I mean, a Pointer of the Red Lotus, things like that. There's just, you know, a huge number of traps, lost winds, impermanences. 2 Unchained Soul of Rage, since we're not running the, what do you want to call it? The Extravagance. 2 is perfectly fine. I don't know. I still might even be safe to play 3 with some of the grind games that I've been in with this card. Can go a little bit longer if it goes that route, but usually I don't think I've really had it come to that point before. 2 is awesome. This card basically is activated during your opponent effect. It's a quick effect. You target one of their monsters. It has to be a special summon monster, and it's obviously face up. And then you link this card with that card, and then you're usually going to go for your Anguish, or depending if you target a link monster of theirs, you can make Abomination or something else. And then once this one is also same thing, when this card is destroyed, you can add a Unchained card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Pretty much same. 2. So this one, 2400 attack, link 3, so a little bit more power. The red one, freaking Aruha, looks awesome. This one is for your turn. A lot of times you'll use the Rage to go into him just for the follow-up turn to basically do the same type of effect, except you target your opponent's card on your turn and then link away with it as well. So then you go to the Abomination. And pretty much once you get Abomination on board, if you have a decent amount of other things still, you pretty much have game, especially with Abominations and effects. 2 Unchained Abominations, or aka Sarama. So 3k, obviously, and then when a card on the field is destroyed, basically you target a card on the field, destroy it. If you enter battle and attack, whenever one of your monsters is destroyed, either by battle or card effect, you destroy a card, and then during the end phase of your turn / your opponent's turn, anytime there's an end phase, you pick a card on the field and destroy it. And these effects are optional. You do not have to activate the end phase one if you do not want to. And I mean, he's pretty much the most powerful one there. The other link that they showed that the leaked was also a link for that looked kind of similar to Abomination. It still didn't look like a Abominable Unchained Soul. And he does not have a destruction effect when he hits the board, or leaves the board, sorry. 2 Cherubini, it's just more for, again, like grind game, second turn plays, because your other link or your Aruha and your Rikea keep you to special summoning only fiends, and he's a fairy, but he's pretty good if you can get him out, pointing to the other one, but still, he doesn't come up often, but if he does, you can still use him to the best of your ability. Just another link 2. With the obviously protection effect. And then you had the Beat Cop 2 instead of 3 with the Extravagance build. It's just another link away for a link 2. It's not really necessary these days, as well with the obviously the Master Rule, but the Nightmare package, Cerberus, Phoenix, Unicorn, and then stuff that you won't use too much. The Unicorn you can use a decent amount. With Rage, you can get the Unicorn out instead of the Anguish, or other ways as well. And then you have the 2 Boral package, Boral Boys. Again, these ones are a little harder to make when you're locked into the fiend part of it, but usually for follow-up plays, this isn't something you can do on your second turn, depending on what monsters you summon. If you get Sarama to start doing his thing, you definitely can get stuff out, or if you have Disaster and whatnot. But yeah, side deck, I run pretty much 3 Nibiru's or 3 Sphere Mode, depending on what you're doing. 3 Droll Lockbirds, Heavy Storm Dusters, Dark Ruler No Mores, and then, again, it's kind of all what you think is going on in your meta at the time, depending on if you're still having locals. Our locals will be back supposedly on the 31st. Hopefully your guys' will as well. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're doing. Online is pretty crazy right now, and I still feel like we won't really have a defined meta until real gameplay starts going back. But obviously, time will only tell. Thank you guys again for your time and watching this. Please give me your feedback, comments, like, subscribe, dislike. If you do dislike, please let me know. And again, questions or anything like that or requests are always welcome. Thank you guys again for your time, and have a good night.